YouTube, and folks on the Larry the GM website. So it is late night on March 28th. And after the announcement of Salazar and um, Corey Julks going to the roster, I spent some time. We had a YouTube earlier. I since deleted that because it was kind of more like, hey, let's talk about it. Let's put our ideas together. And then I went on some Twitter Spaces and some validated with some guys there my theories about, hey, what happened here. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go. I've updated the article. I want to talk through exactly what I think the Astros mindset was. So hopefully we can keep this fairly short. We're going to try to describe why the Astros chose Salazar and Jolks and not some of the other options, and you guys will see the information on the website, and then we'll carry it through. So again, this is all embedded within, and I will embed the video down below where the changes occur in this article. This is all embedded in the Astros opening day season predictions article. All right, so um, step number one. Let's talk about the the Astros had to make a choice, and these were essentially the choices that they could choose from. Um, and my belief is they just chose to say, hey, well, number one, Hensley and Dubon were going to be on the roster. Then they were going to make a choice between Diaz and Lee as the primary backup catcher for this team. And as I wrote originally, I think when I started this article before the game last night, I actually thought that Lee had barely edged out for the job. And then Yonder Diaz hits another home run and has just been a hit machine. And in the course of that game and in the original version of this article, in fact, the wording's still there. I said Yonder Diaz has played his way onto the Astros. So the question in my mind then became, well, are they going to carry two, or are they going to carry both Diaz and Lee? I didn't think they would carry Diaz and Lee for essentially the reason I think that plays out here for the reason they chose Salazar. And so I wrote the article as if they only were going to carry Diaz, or they were going to bring on Diaz. Um, We'll get into that a little bit. The other choices were going to be between Matijevic, Dearden, and Julks. And because I only had them adding Diaz, my pick three is they're going to take Matijevic and Dearden. So let's talk about like what happened. What let's talk about the Salazar decision first, and then let's talk about the Julks decision. So with Salazar, the Astros are valuing Diaz's bat so much that they don't want to be in a position of only being able to use Diaz as one would use a backup catcher, um, a person that was only their backup catcher. Which means they want to be able to DH Diaz. They want to be able to deploy him in other positions, and know that they can have somebody else come in and close a game out for Maldonado if needed, and not have to give up the DH. If they had Diaz starting at DH, that would be a really challenge for that. So at that point, the Astros decided to run with three catchers, and they also this because of their wanting to be able to deploy Diaz as a bat more, they needed to have the third catcher. Then becomes the decision, and the reason I chose not that they wouldn't do that is that they made it say like we do not want Corey Lee to be playing at have the playing time allocation of a third catcher in this scenario. He would gotten less than 100 plate appearances for the season. That's not a good situation for a developing catcher or any developing player as much. So um they made a decision like, okay, well, let's keep Lee in AAA. Now, some people are framing like this is an indictment of Lee. He's not ready. The Astros are telling you he's not ready. I don't think that's not what Dana Brown said, and I don't think that's really what they're saying. I think they're saying this Diaz beat Lee out. Okay, and that was the conclusion I reached barely last night as I wrote the first version of this article. That's not to say that Lee isn't a very capable, potentially, future very good catcher for the Astros. But what I think it is saying here is that like we don't want to allocate such little playing time for Lee because he might not develop under that scenario. So we're gonna keep him in AAA for most of the year. Now they might change if Diaz struggles or if Salazar is not a viable option, then they may change that. So uh, that's when they made a decision to go with Salazar. Now, one of the other interesting points, and I talked about this in the first video today, or one of the videos today. Understand that. Let's blow this data up. So understand this third column over here is the Fangraphs uh, depth chart projected OPS statistics for these players. Notice that Lee projects to have an OPS of 641. Salazar projects to have an OPS of 640. So for the 2023 season, there just is not that big of a gap in what the two players are projected to be able to deliver in 2023. Now, I think if you did that, you deployed a projection model for the next 5 years, Corey Lee would far outweigh Salazar. That may not be fair to Salazar, but that I think that reflection of Lee's pedigree as a prospect. And so uh, that's so given this data, they said, well, heck, you know, given the fact that both of these players, and you notice that in the 22 stats, Lee basically had a OPS of 790 in AAA, and Salazar across AA and AAA had an OPS of 783. There's not that much difference in performance between these two players, and that's why they says we will sacrifice development of Salazar to keep development of Lee. I do not think it's an indictment of Lee, other than to say that Lee's just got beat out by Diaz. I don't think that's a really big indictment there. So that's the crux of the Lee versus Diaz. Let me see if there's anything else I wanted to say. No, I think that covers it. So, guys, the short end of this. Now, another piece of this, and I'm going to say this about the joke situation as well. There could be some situations going on here. Maybe Salazar is being showcased for a trade. Maybe Lee is already involved in a trade. We don't know. Okay, but just hold on to that. That could be part of what's going on there. Let's talk about Corey joke or jokes. What happened with jokes? Why did the Astros go get jokes? All right, so you see the playing time distributions projected here. The Corey Jokes was less than 100, a matter of a few hours ago. Salazar was less than, Salazar wasn't even on here. So when we look at Corey Jokes and we go back up to this table, I'm going to do the same thing. And I want you to focus on the Manichevic data, the Dearden data, and the Jokes data. So again, look at the OPS numbers between the three of them. They're basically statistically the same number again. So basically, there's as far as, and the Astros may have the internal data that actually says they predict Julks is going to be a better player in 2023 than Manichev and Dearden. The other piece that kind of surprised me is I was expecting that the Astros would get a left-handed bat, but notice here that Julks has a reverse split in his data. The other key number and the biggest number that essentially you heard out of Dana Brown's mouth is this 523. Corey Julks performed at a very high level in AAA for 523 at bats. Dearden only had 128 at bats in AAA, and Maticevic only had 246 plus 71 in the major leagues, so he only had 317. And you also notice that basically the statistics between Maticevic overall 853, Corey Julks 854. Those are statistically the same performance last year. Again, there's not when this breaks down between these three players, you can say really there's no statistical reason to expect that Maticevic or Jokes wouldn't be on par or equal to Maticevic. In fact, because he did it for more plate appearances in AAA, you might have a belief that it's more repeatable as a performance in 23. Um, and Dearden just, I think they're saying like we want you to have more time in AAA before we commit and bring you up. So that's really the Jokes decision. I thought that they were going to pick Dearden just because I thought he played his way on. But understanding it from the plate appearance standpoint and the fact that the statistics for 22 were really so close, and Dearden's statistics were better, but a lot, 2/3 of that was in, or actually 73% of that was in Double A. So the organization trusted repeatability, Jokel's numbers in 22 more than uh, for 23, more than they did for the other two players. So that plus one more element. Corey Julks has also played 38% of his games at third base. That gives them a flexibility if they have an issue with Bregman. That gives them a flexibility to have another infield replacement option. If Bregman's not feeling good for a day or whatever. So he has Julks has both the infield and the outfield um, flexibility. Maticevic obviously basically plays first base and left field. Corey Julks can play right field and left field, and has played a little bit in center. Dearden is basically an all outfielder. So, you know, uh, that's where Julks again has a little bit of a position flexibility advantage. Again, I will say before we close out this video, um, there's also potential of trades here, and understand that some of these things may be happening. Are they showcasing Julks? Are they showcasing Salazar for a trade, or they already have a trade set up for Maticevic and or Dearden, and that's why they made these decisions? We don't know that. Stay tuned for next week, or actually next couple of days, and see if there's anything that happens before the season starts. All right, so that's it, guys. What I would ask for you to do, please like the video. We try to keep it short and to the point. This is why the Astros, I believe, have chosen Salazar and Julks. Please like the video. If you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you haven't subscribed to the website, please just fill out the form when it pops up on your screen. Subscribe to the website, and guys, we'll keep trying to put out good videos for you. If you guys show me you're enjoying them. Thanks, guys. Have a good night.